All right, let's just jump right in. If you're a Ford owner, you know that feeling, right? That little check engine light pops on and, your heart just sinks a little. Well, today, we're going to demystify one of the most common reasons for that light, the trouble code P0460.
So, there it is, the dreaded check engine light. You plug in your scanner and boom, it spits out P0460. I know, it sounds super technical, right? But trust me, it's not as scary as it seems. We're going to break down exactly what your car is trying to tell you and, more importantly, what you can actually do about it.
Okay, so first things first, let's figure out what this code is actually flagging. You can think of it like a very specific, kind of grumpy message from your car's brain.
At its core, P0460 is all about a simple disagreement. See, your car's computer, the Powertrain Control Module, or PCM, it's like the brain of the whole operation. It's constantly calculating how much fuel you should be using. But at the exact same time, there's a sensor in your fuel tank that's actually measuring the fuel level. The P0460 code pops up when what the computer thinks and what the sensor sees just don't match.
And that's really the bottom line here. The computer thinks one thing, the sensor is screaming another, and that check engine light, well, that's just the result of all that confusion. It's basically a communication breakdown right inside your car's fuel system.
So, you're probably wondering, how does this confusion even happen? Well, let's look at the two different places your car is getting its information from. Think of it like a little accounting error, but for your gas tank.
Okay, so on one side, you've got the computer doing its math. It knows how long the engine's been running, how fast you're going, all that stuff. And from that, it calculates how much fuel it thinks you've burned. Then, on the other side, you have the sensor's direct report. This comes from a little float arm in your fuel tank. Yeah, just like the one in the back of your toilet, that's physically floating on the gas. And when there's a big, glaring mismatch between these two numbers, bam, the system throws up that P0460 flag.
All right, now that we know what the problem is, let's put on our detective hats. What are the usual suspects? What's actually causing this confusion in the first place?
You know, the most common cause is actually pretty simple and mechanical. That little float arm we talked about, it can just get plain old stuck. It might get stuck near the top, making your car think the tank is always full, or it could get stuck near the bottom, screaming that it's always empty. Now, it's less common, but you could also be looking at issues with the fuel pump module itself, or even a problem with the instrument panel cluster, the dashboard where your fuel gauge lives.
And this really gets to the heart of it. The cause could be something super simple, like a stuck part, or it could be a more complicated electronic issue. The biggest thing to remember here is don't panic. Don't just automatically assume it's going to be some huge expensive repair.
Okay, enough with the diagnosis, right? Let's get to the part I know you've been waiting for. How do we actually fix this thing? I've got a really straightforward, step-by-step action plan for you, and we're going to start with the easiest, cheapest stuff first. So we're going to approach this logically. We'll start with two super simple checks you can do all by yourself, for free, like right now. After that, we'll talk about checking for any official info from the manufacturer, and then finally, what to do if none of that solves the problem.
So check this out. What's kind of crazy is that your driving style could actually be the trigger. Seriously, if you're doing a lot of aggressive driving, hard stops, fast acceleration, all that fuel sloshing around in the tank can sometimes make that little float arm get stuck. So before you do anything else, just try driving a little more gently for a couple of days. See if the code clears itself. It is by far the easiest potential fix you could ask for.
Okay, step 2. This is a brilliant and super simple test you can do yourself. If your gauge is reading empty, let's say under 5%, go add a few gallons of gas. Watch the needle. Does it move? Or if it's stuck on full, over 95%, just drive the car for a while and burn off some fuel. Does that needle start to drop? If it doesn't respond to any of that, well, you've just found a huge clue that the sensor is, in fact, stuck. All right, let's pull all of this together. We figured out the problem, we've investigated the causes, and we've laid out a clear plan of attack. So now I've got a final cheat sheet to help you solve this P0460 puzzle once and for all. Think of this as your quick reference guide. If you think it's just a stuck float arm, the first thing to try is changing up your driving habits. If you suspect the sensor itself is stuck, do that fuel test we just talked about. Now, if those don't do the trick, it's time for step 3. For those more complex issues, like a potential fuel pump problem, your next best move is to hop online and look for any technical service bulletins, or TSBs. These are official notices from Ford about known issues and how to fix them, and they can be a goldmine. And if there's no TSB, or that doesn't fix it, well, that's your cue for step 4, talk to a pro. The great thing is you've already done all the groundwork, so you can walk in there armed with a ton of useful information. So here's the most important thing to take away from all this. That P0460 code does not automatically mean you're in for a huge, expensive repair. More often than not, it's something pretty simple. By just following these logical steps, you can diagnose and, hey, maybe even solve the problem all by yourself without ever having to pick up a wrench.
So, the next time that little light pops on, don't just see it as a problem. See it as a puzzle. And the good news? You now have the first few pieces and you know exactly how to start putting them together.